Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative and holistic solutions for better health and wellness. And I am your host, Marsha. Now, today I want to talk to you about an interesting topic, love and relationships. We love and relationships, right? I would hope so. Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about today, love and relationship and understanding your partner's love language. But before we get into that, I'd like for you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and be sure to like this video at the end of the podcast. All right. Also, you know I love quotes, so I have a quote for you for this week, and I have it here. Let me get it together. Let me get my quote. Okay, it's not my quote, but all right. So, love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies, by Aristotle. Interesting. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. I find that very interesting. Okay. All right. So let me start off by talking about the 5 love languages. Now, this was nothing developed by me. This is actually by Gary Chapman, and who is a counselor. I have his book, by the way, and I've read his book. Very interesting. And it has helped me to understand my own husband's love language as far as understanding my own. Now, with the 5 love languages, according to Gary Chapman, he believes that everyone has a primary love language, okay? And so with the primary love language, he believes that this is the way. Now, this is getting on my nerves. Now, according to Gary Chapman, he believes that everyone has a primary love language, and that this is the way that most people feel loved and appreciated by their partner through these love languages. And so by understanding and speaking our partner's love languages, we can strengthen our relationship and improve our communication. And I find this to be true. I definitely find this to be true because after reading his book, I paid more attention to how my husband expressed his primary love language. And I'll get into what his is in a second, as well as my own. Okay, so the 5 love languages are, the first one is words of affirmation. The next one is physical touch. The next one is acts of service. And let's see, the next one is quality time. And the last one is gifts. So let me go over it again. Words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, and quality time, as well as gifts. That's the last one. Okay, so you may have more than one, and I believe that I have more than one love language. But let me go over each one of these, okay? Now, let's start with words of affirmation. Now, this words of affirmation, it uses words to express love, right? And appreciation and affection. So people who value love languages feel loved when they hear positive and encouraging words. And for me, I believe that is my primary love language. I believe, but I do have 2 of them, but I believe that's one of my primary love languages. All right. And so a way to observe how your partner reacts when you compliment them and compliment them more frequently and ask them directly what makes them feel appreciated. These are practical tips for words of affirmation. So an example of a words of affirmation could be something as simple as, honey, you look beautiful today, or honey, or doll, babe, whatever your spouse calls you, or maybe that's your spouse's primary love language. So whatever your partner's primary love language is, examples of that would be, them hearing those words of love and appreciation, right? Vice versa, whichever their primary love language is. And so with now for me, like I said, I believe that one is my primary love language. For some reason, I believe so. I love to hear my husband, to give me compliments, or even just to say something nice, or just saying, I love you, right? Something like that. So I believe that's my primary one, but there is another. And so the next one is acts of service. And so with this love language, it involves how you show love and doing chores. And it could be such as acts of service, such as doing chores, running errands, or doing something nice to show appreciation for the other person. So I guess I could say yesterday I showed some acts of service because I cleaned up the house yesterday, right? And I wanted to make sure that he noticed it. So it's so funny because I was like, when he came in the door, I mopped, I cleaned, I swept, I, cleaned up the house and everything, vacuumed, I did all those things. And so when he came in, the first thing, one of the things I said, do you notice anything different? I wanted him to notice and recognize, what I did around the house. And I guess in that aspect, it was like a 2-for-1, not consciously really thinking about it, but now that I'm talking about it, I think I'm not saying if that's what I was looking for. I don't know, but I wanted him to notice, right? And so I wanted him to notice that, hey, I cleaned up around the house. I want you to notice. I want, and he did. He noticed. He said, "Oh, you cleaned up. Okay." so I wanted him to notice that, and again by him saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, nice job. You cleaned up well." Words of affirmation. Okay, so that was a 2-for-1. All right, so that's so you have words of affirmation, acts of service, and also physical touch. Now this one is very interesting because that's definitely not my primary love language or even secondary love language, but for my husband it is. His primary love language is touch. And so I had to really, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that he liked to touch. He likes to hold hands. He likes to hug, cuddle. I like those things too, but I'm not into it as much as he is for whatever reason. I don't know, but that is his thing, right? So his primary love language is touch. So even at night, he has to hold me. He has to put his hand on me and touch me. He has to feel me there. Right. And so what I've noticed is, for me, it's like what I've noticed to show him that back in return, I would go ahead and hold his hand or something like that, or hug him and hold him. When for me, it's like, I just really want to go to sleep, and hey, don't hug up all of the bed. So, but for him, that's his primary love language. And so being that I'm aware of that, I try to tap into that and do that as much as I can, by giving him and showing him the physical touch. Now, another one, and you'll know that, and you see their reaction and how they respond to you giving them that touch that they're looking for. It's really interesting, and that makes a person feel loved, wanted, appreciated, right? And so that's what we talk about when we talk about these love languages. But the next one is quality time. Okay, so quality time. Now, I enjoy quality time. I think that can be one of my, I would say maybe secondary, but words of affirmation, acts of service, acts of service and quality time. I would say those are my top three. And so with quality time, this involves giving your loved one your undivided attention, right? And so for children, perfect example is children, right? I remember when my kids were small, and and I'm sure any of you moms, if your mom's listening out there with little children, when you're on the phone, your kids will always come around on the phone and ask you questions and want you to pay them attention. So maybe for kids, maybe that's their primary language, right? Quality time. They want your undivided attention. When? All the time. So that, I think that is interesting. So quality time, I love that. And so quality time is just like, I would say, even with family, when you're having dinner, right? Quality time is very important. They're all important, right? And they can play roles in different parts and aspects of a relationship. And for this one, I would say quality time with family as well. And so when is the most time that you get to have quality time with the entire family and not just your spouse? Is dinner time. That's why sitting at the table at dinner time is so important. That is important, not just for you and your spouse, but all those in the family, right? And so now today with all these different busy work schedules and things like that, sometimes it can be hard to fit that in, that quality time just for dinner, right? And so we have to find other ways that we can find quality times with our loved ones. Now quality time, these people, now they value this, and of course they feel love and they have that one-on-one time with you, and they value that. So it's important. So if you're sitting with your mate and you guys are watching a movie and you have movie night, my husband and I, we have movie nights. When we're home together, we're able to sit and we'll watch movies, right? We'll watch some movies. So at that time, that's not the time to be on your phone, to look at your phone, and vice versa. That's not the time for your spouse, your partner, to be on the phone, right? And so, and if I am on my phone, he'll be like, put your phone down. What are you doing on your phone? So I know it's like you're undivided. This is our moment. No distractors, right? No distractors. Focusing on just having that quality bonding time with your spouse, your family, your loved ones, right? And so understanding you love your person, your mate's love language is important. And this can also work too as far as your family, right? Your children, your loved ones around you. But the topic is on relationships, right? And so we want to be tuned in, we want to be tapped in, we want to be focused in and paying attention and observing our partner's love language. We want to pay close attention to that. And so when we do that, we'll discover that how greatly it can improve your relationship, because you're tuned in, right? You're tuned in. And so when you're not tuned in, you're not aware, you're not paying attention, you're not mindful of certain things. So you may have someone where a husband may do acts of service every day, where he'll bring his wife home flowers every day. And the wife she's so used to it, she'd be like, oh, thank you. Yeah, put it over there. But the moment he stops bringing those flowers, see what type of reaction that wife will get. See what type of reaction, how the wife will respond or how she will behave, right? She would be like, wait a minute. Where's my everyday flowers? Where's my flowers today? Why didn't I get my flowers, right? So we pay attention to the things that when it's not as common, when it's not the usual, the norm, right? And so the things that is the norm, we kind of I wouldn't say ignore it, but it's there and we may not pay that much attention to it. It's like, okay, yeah, this is what he do every day. It's routine, because it's routine. But that is his way of showing acts of service. He loves you. And every day I want to bring you home some flowers. Every day I want to bring you fresh flowers, whatever it is. So we need to take those things into consideration, and vice versa. You can do something in return for your spouse for doing something for you. Not to say that you do something to get something in return, but it's nice when it's reciprocated, right? It's nice when it's reciprocated. You normally don't cook dinner every day. Maybe you can surprise him and have a nice meal, a nice warm cooked meal, maybe one of his favorite dishes, and have it ready, something like that. Or, or anything, whatever you can think of, anything that you can think of that your partner enjoys and that they like, do that. And you'll see a positive reaction. I can pretty much guarantee it. And so, but I love that with his book, and I use this, and it's so funny because prior to reading the book, I'd never really, well, I noticed it, but I didn't really, I guess I really didn't pay attention to how important it really was in the relationship, how important of understanding your mate's love language, how important that is. So that is definitely something that you can definitely try. And so what happens when we don't understand our mate's love language? What can happen when we don't understand our love language, our mate's love language, rather? We can develop miscommunication and understanding, right? We can have a lack of understanding and miscommunication. So we need to be very clear and express what it is that we want from our mates, as well as doing the same of what our mate want and expect from us. And so that's why it's important to keeping the lines of communication open, because without communication, you don't have anything, right? You don't have anything at all. So be patient, be understanding, right? Have and develop. And with understanding comes a level of overstanding. So once you can understand, you may not fully understand your mate with some things, but if you can look and listen, pay attention to what they are saying and hear what they are saying, paying attention, and to look at it from a different perspective, and rather just what's in your head, what your thoughts and your belief is, what in your head, and just being able to communicate and understand what your spouse or your partner is communicating to you. And so it needs to be this work both ways, right? So communication is a two-way street. It involves two people, right? A group of people, but in relationship wise, we're talking about two people having a conversation, open dialogue, hearing what the other one has to say, as well as being heard. But one has to express it in a way with love and kindness, and not being having anger and holding resentment. And so there's ways that you can improve those things by just following the examples of the love language, right? And being patient with yourself, being patient with your spouse, your children, being patient overall. Because again, without patience, you really don't have anything. And without communication, you have nothing. That's what I meant to say, not patience. But without communication, you really don't have much of anything. And so we need to learn how to communicate effectively. And that's why I've talked about this before in another episode a while back. That I talked about the importance of communication. That is so important if you want to have a happy and thriving relationship. These things are important. And by understanding your mate's love language, you're looking at, more joy and happiness, not just for yourself, but for your spouse, for the relationship as a whole. And so going back to that quote, I want to go back to that quote where it said, love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. So when you have a mate, when you have a partner, when you take on a spouse, right? When you take that, you guys become one. You're no longer single. You're an individual as your own self, but when you're in that relationship, you are combined as one, right? You're combined as one, as a single unit, and so that's important to recognize that it's not just about you anymore. It's you and your spouse. It's you and your partner. So remember those things. Remember that communication is a two-way street. Not only do you need to be heard, you also need to listen, right? That's so important. And it's not only about what you need to receive to make you feel loved and appreciated, because your partner also needs to be loved and appreciated, and it needs to be shown. And so those acts of service, which you can say is action, they're actionable stuff because they're acts of service and you're taking action to show and express your love, whether it's cooking dinner, whether it's cleaning up the house, whether it's maybe going to buy your spouse an outfit, for a gift or something, like whatever it is, it's doing and it's showing the way that you express your love by doing things that are generous, doing things that shows that you love and appreciate your spouse. And so, and I know that, for those who, participate in Valentine's Day and things like that, and if you're single, do not let this moment of, because you're single and you don't have a spouse, or maybe you're dating someone who hasn't really fully committed to you at this point, do an assessment, right? Do an assessment, a self-assessment of yourself and what you want and what you require and what you demand and what your standards are, right? What are your standards? What are your requirements? Now, again, I've talked about stuff like this before in other podcasts in the past about having standards, right? We all should have standards, but we have to be realistic in our standards and what it is that we want, right? And so if you want someone who is, I don't know, someone who is tall, dark, and handsome, makes X amount of money, I'm not saying that you can't have these things, right? Because you certainly can. But also, how do you match? How do you match up, right? How do you match up? How do you level up and be in alignment with that person that you want to be with? And so how do you become and being aligned with that other person? And so you can definitely manifest what it is that you want and desire. Yeah, you sure can. I've talked about that too. And before I met my husband, what I was looking for, I manifested what I wanted, the type of man that I wanted, and he fit the description of everything that I wanted. And so we need to be specific on those things of what it is that we want. And it doesn't need to be something just of physical, right? Because physicality is just the outer layer. We don't want something just superficial. We want something with some depth. We want a person with depth and substance. And if you're on this podcast, listening to this podcast, you're into wanting to improve your health and wellness, which includes your spirituality, right? Which may or may not include, more than likely it is, but to improve your overall health and well-being, which includes your spirituality. And so we want to choose our mates and having certain standards and what it is that we require, but we also need to be in alignment with that. We need to be aligned with what it is that we want and what we wish to acquire. So I went off a bit on that, but I just wanted to say, like, when you're in a relationship, or if for those who are not in a relationship, because you may feel, maybe you're feeling lonely at this time, you're single, you may not have anyone. It's okay to be single for some time. It's okay to have that life assessment and getting into self, right? Getting into self as you're striving to elevate and work on your progression of self. That's important, right? So look at that time of having that period and moment to yourself for reflection, for growth, what it is you truly want, what it is that you truly desire, and what do you have to offer in return? Because we want so many things, right? We want this, we want that, we want this person to have this, that, and that. But what are we offering in return? Okay. So it's not just about what you want, What do you have that you can give, that you can add value to that person that you are with, right? And so when two people come together, they become one, and you are one unit, and you bring, it's not a person coming in 50-50. I talked about that in the book as well, right? On love and relationships. It's not about just you being you giving in 50, this person is 50, now you guys make 100. No, you have to be 100, and together you make that whole, make it 200, right? So together you guys are leveled up. You're a power couple. You guys are in alignment. You guys share the same ideals, the same goals, and maybe you may not share the same ideals, may differ on some things, and that's okay. But to be able to love and support one another, right? On this journey, and this path that you guys are both on, is to love and appreciate and enjoy the journey. Right? And so even though you may be single right now, for those of you who are single, enjoy the journey, right? Enjoy that journey. Life is beautiful, right? Depending on your perception on how you see the world. All right. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you found it beneficial, but that's all I have for now. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.